That's right. I'm gonna review every John Wick movie. I'm gonna talk about where they work, I'm gonna talk about when they go on strike, I'm gonna talk about why they left such a pretty dent, and then I'm gonna decide which of the 4 movies is the best, because I know there's nothing you people love more than arbitrary rankings. Let's talk about actions and consequences. We all know the story of John Wick by now, right? Okay, someone in the back needs catching up. John Wick is a legendary used car salesman who retires so he can be with his stock footage wife, Helen. Then his wife dies, and John is upset, distraught. Helen left him one final parting gift, a puppy. But then the puppy dies, and John is mortified, grief-stricken. The puppy left him one final parting gift, a key to a vault in a Swiss bank in the Philippines. Now I can't show you what he found there, but all you need to know is he ends up killing a lot of people. This is John Wick. These lingering wide shots, and when I say lingering I mean longer than a second. The gun fu. What is gun fu, you ask? I'll say this. Why use a ranged weapon at a distance when you can use it up close? In these movies, guns are less guns and more really fast, tiny punches. What sets John apart from other action heroes is the way he moves. As opposed to the usual running and gunning, the faster the better, there's something very deliberate about everything he does. He's precise, calculated. He will casually reload in front of an enemy because he knows he has the time. He looks like he's done this before, and that's a result of all the work Keanu Reeves put into this. It's been proven time and time again that the best action comes when the person fighting actually knows what they're doing, because then there's nothing to cut around. The director can afford to show us punch and dance in all its glory, and that's why Keanu Reeves trained for 8 months pregnant in order to do these fights, and it pays off like a damn politician. Nobody goes to these types of movies for the story, and while you won't remember this movie for it's not bad. Yeah, it's simple. It's the same revenge story we've all heard a million times. Boy meets boy, boy kills boy's dog, boy tells his dad that he killed boy's dog, boy's dad is like, I'm gonna level with you, champ, you're gonna die and there's nothing I can do to save you. That's just a good moment, I don't know what to tell you. What the movie lacks in narrative depth, it makes up for with style. And surprisingly enough, some good humor.
Let us not resort to our baser instincts and handle this like civilized men to move on.
It would have been so easy to have a generic world of brutes and beanies, but instead, the world of John Wick is intriguing. We have a window into this society of assassins. John is stepping back into the underworld. It's a place of class and courtesy, putting rules and standards where they're seldom found. Nobody is normal down here. They all have a look, a walk, a talk, a presence that says, I've got one hell of a backstory and I'm not in the business of talking about it. And they found the right people for the job. Ian McShane, Willem Dafoe, John Leguizamo, Lance Reddick. God, how could they fumble this man as Wesker? He looks like a bootleg Blade, man. It's weird watching this after all the sequels, because you come to know John for his brief and basic statements, and you forget how oddly sociable he is in this one. Don't get me wrong, he's still no poet.
No more bullets!
No more bullets. Just you and me, John. You and me.
Psycho Mantis.
He's actually rather talkative and well-spoken, seems like a guy you could have a nice conversation with, which I'd say makes him more intimidating, gives him a cloak and dagger quality.
How good's your laundry?
I'm sorry to say that no one's that good.
No, I thought not.
It does make sense that John would become more matter-of-fact. Since all the movies take place back-to-back, he never gets a chance to rest. Hospitalities would not be a priority. I'm not saying that was a conscious decision, I'm just saying it makes sense. Anyway, Keanu Reeves is good in this. I said it. I meant it. I won't say it again because this is a video and you can just rewind by 5 seconds. I mean, do I have to do everything? That's not the kind of relationship I want to be building here. Keanu Reeves has a reputation for being a bit of a wooden actor. Because he is, but give the man some fucking credit, he is clearly trying here. He's brought the charisma, and I will be damned to hell if he's not good in this.
Vigo will kill me. Uh-huh.
I was surprised just how long the movie goes without any action. The first fight scene isn't until half an hour in, a third of the movie. This is obviously a result of sparing the budget, but it's quite well done. John Wick's whole thing is that he's a living legend. Everyone knows this guy, everyone's afraid of this guy. He has been deeply wronged, and most of that time is spent effectively hyping him up.
I once saw him
Write a book.
with a pencil.
And then it drops us into the action. One problem with the action is it doesn't really escalate. It's just a consistent blend of shooting and hitting faceless grunts. Though, coming in around 90 minutes, the movie lost less time than that dog did, so it doesn't become too repetitive. The action doesn't flow as smoothly as I remembered. There are some disorienting cuts, especially at the nightclub with all the flashing lights, and the movie can be a bit too black for its own good. Fuck you, you know what I mean. Coming back after all this time, I'm not gonna lie. The action was a little underwhelming, which is the odd side effect of comparing the movie to its own sequels and all the movies that were inspired by it. Obviously, it's the first run. It's a proof of concept. Cutting it some slack. Yeah, it's still pretty good. It's funny looking back now, but when this was coming out, people thought it was going to be straight to DVD generic action slop, and you can't really blame them. Before it was synonymous with high-tier action, the name John Wick really sounded like the most basic cool guy name you could come up with. Keanu Reeves was shaping up to be a bit of a has-been due to his very limited success since the 90s. On top of that, the movie had a measly $20 million budget. Yes, obviously that is a shit ton of money, but in terms of making an action blockbuster, it's tighter than olive oil. Now, a few sequels later and a seat in cinema history, the first John Wick movie is inspirational. While easily the weakest in the series, it was the first attempt. It caught people's eyes and broadened the American action movie horizon. It showed that creativity and talent prevail over money and brands.
Occasionally. Sometimes.
And it set the stage for the groundbreaking insanity that would soon follow.
Good seeing you, Don. Yeah.
This is a really good movie. Like, really good. It's an absolute improvement over the original. It's a lot more nuanced than the original. The film does not put its best foot forward, as in the beginning it retreads a lot of old ground. John mourns his wife. A couple of tough guys put their bibs on and blab about what a legend he is. Made love to my wife.
A pencil. I know, I've heard the story, sir.
Fucking pencil!
But that is just the beginning. Otherwise, the movie has a lot new to offer. Like an unconventional box of chocolates, there's more variety in, well, everything. Instead of a basic revenge plot, John is forced into a job he doesn't want to do because of a contractual obligation. It's much cooler when they say it. This guy shows up at John's house. He's like, "Hey, Johnny Bonnie, heard you're not retired anymore. I want you to kill my sister, please." Then John's like, "Actually, I am still retired. I did have a whole monologue about thinking I'm back.
I'm thinking I'm back!
But honestly, I was just caught up in the moment, plus there are no witnesses, so it basically didn't happen. Tree fall in the woods type stuff. Piss off." Then the guy's like, "John boy, I got your marker." Now the marker is a fun new addition to this world. It's an assassin's debt, an IOU in blood, meaning John has to honor it or he will die. So John's like, nah.
This.
Okay, I'll do it. This one has double the budget of the original, so there are a lot of new toys it's very excited to show you. Though rarely still, the movie has some beautiful shots with a lot of nice colors.
You wanted me back. I'm back.
A decent amount of the movie takes place in Rome, which is a beautiful setting and a great opportunity to show us just how far this society of assassins goes. The movie is more playful too. It introduces more cartoonish aspects like the bulletproof suit and gives us the absolutely incredible mirror maze.
Within this exhibition,
I don't even want to know what kind of mental sword trap the team had to go through in order to film here, but I never saw a camera, so clearly it worked. That said, I was looking really hard for a camera the entire time, so maybe it didn't. Seriously, this place is so much fun because it flips the action on its head. Suddenly, John has to adapt to his trippy environment and use it to his advantage. It's the first showing of just how inventive these movies would become. I realized there's a funny little trend in these movies. John has a Marty McFly-style reaction to being called by his own name.
Mr. Wick?
Mr. Wick?
John?
Mr. Wick.
If the first movie's action is a proof of concept, this is the final product. Those disorienting jumpy cuts are nowhere to be found. All the arenas are properly lit, so now even the fights in the dark are crisp and clear. And most importantly, the fights aren't monotonous. As I've mentioned, there's good location variety, but there's also variety in who John is fighting. There are now these mini-boss-esque characters who are tougher than the usual goons, and are given some time to form a rivalry with John before they inevitably clash.
Loose ends?
Pretty sure that's not how you say one. Pretty sure. Wait a second. Nah, see, she's just being an asshole. What John Wick does that makes its action so impactful is about cause and effect. Before John Wick, shootout scenes were mostly shot like this. A shot of the gun firing, cut, a shot of the impact. Now, this will have come to fruition because in the old days, they obviously couldn't use CGI, and you can't fire blanks at people, or at least you're not supposed to.
I can't see! I can't see! Of course you can't fucking see! I just shot a blank in your fucking eyes!
But it persisted beyond the point it was necessary because it's honestly the easiest way to film a shootout. Just get a few shots of your lead firing blanks, then intercut it with shots of goons going down, and boom, you've made an action scene. Good job, go to lunch. But there is a power to this that you don't get otherwise. Putting the shot and the impact, the cause and effect in the same frame lends a weight to each hit that simply isn't there in those other movies. It feels tangible, it feels real because this is how you would see it. There's no disconnect between the performers because they're working on the same fight in the same frame at the same time. So they have that energy, that connection, that sexual tension, I mean murderous intent. You feel all of that. And that's why it works so well. There's a band in the movie, and the song they're performing is the theme song of the movie. I'm not sure I want to know what kind of paradoxical shit is going on there. This movie birthed one of the most iconic posters of all time, which I absolutely love, though I have always found it funny how seemingly everyone got the memo about the pistols, except this one guy in the back who brought the shotgun. I bet he felt proper embarrassed. By far the most important change this movie makes to the action is allowing it to breathe. There's still a lot of bombast, still a lot of loud music, but the movie takes time to let you hear the air. Sometimes a fight won't have music. There are scenes where people just talk without it being some kind of standoff. It's such a small thing, but it's so important for a movie like this to have these moments. They ground the movie and they provide valuable contrast to the action. The character of Cassian only appears in this movie, but he ended up having a big impact on me because of this one scene where he just sits down and has a very masculine heart-to-heart with John.
So you're free.
Am I?
No.
There's an art to good downtime, which has been lost in the current age of movies. So a John Wick film being one to get it right is unexpected, but welcome. At times, the movie raises the question whether John is justified in what he's doing. For a man whose end goal is a little bit of peace and quiet, he's reaping a lot of havoc to get it, though unfortunately that question is underexplored across the entire series. Cast newcomers include Ricardo Scamaccio, whose haircut makes him look like the member of a midlife crisis boy band. Ruby Rose, that's not her real name. Common, that's his name. His name is Common. I guess his parents weren't much fussed about giving him a unique name. Thank you, I'll be here all week. Peter Serafinowicz plays the armorer,
Easier reloads, and I know you'll appreciate the custom porting.
which is funny because he's the kitchen gun guy.
Kitchen gun! And it sparkles like new!
And of course, Lawrence Fishburne, who is unsurprisingly a great addition.
It's Christmas. We're going to Applebee's after this.
And if we're continuing the name theme, I'm currently very curious how one's ancestors earned the title Fishburne. Your fish mum is fat and ugly. Oh, not even evolution's gonna forget that one.
Now.
Wait. Now?
Now.
This was planned? How? Hey, if anyone's free, come down to Central Park. John Wick's gonna be there and we all need to pretend to be civilians until I give the cue. Then we all turn and look at him, revealing ourselves to be assassins. But why? Why would we do that? Because it's fucking cool, Kyle. Right at the end of the movie, and I'm almost definitely looking too far into this, John has just been told that he's...
Excommunicado.
Avocado. Every assassin from this far to that far wants his head on a silly straw. He is almost certainly going to die. He looks to Winston and he says,
Tell them. Tell them all. Whoever comes, whoever it is, I'll kill them.
you'd think this is supposed to be some grandiose moment of pure badassery, and yet it comes across as sad. His wife is dead. His dog is dead, his retirement is finished, and he's had his vengeance. He has no reason to keep living. This is a man with nothing to fight for at the end of his life, making a promise that he will bring down as many people with him as he can, that even though it is futile, he will continue his selfish charade. And you realize, the man he is, the things he does, in a weird sense, maybe killing is all he's got left.
I'll kill them all. Of course you will.
Thank you so much. This movie was a big deal. First two were both much bigger successes than anyone expected, but this is the movie where the series had broken into the mainstream. All the positive word of mouth from the first two had snowballed, and John Wick 3 had become the movie to go and see. I remember this one very fondly because it's the one that hooked me in. I got caught up in the hype, went back, watched the first two, and then I saw this in cinemas day one, when I was 14. Which, if you're following the rules, is just a little bit too young. But it's okay, because my mum took me. And that's why I'm a feminist. The best way to describe this movie compared to the first two is bigger. Everything is bigger. Bigger action, bigger sets, bigger performances, bigger visuals. You would be hard-pressed to find a wide shot in this movie that has any less than 10 sources of light. Once again, the sequel has a much bigger budget than the predecessor, and it really wants you to know that. Because everything is fucking bigger. Is it better though? Well, we'll get to that. The movie begins directly after the end of the second movie, with just under an hour before everyone with a trigger and a finger starts exercising their rights on him. John has to find cover, fast, but not before he's done some sightseeing. Yep. That's Times Square. Yes, you are on the clock. Go. A little quicker.
Tick-tock, Mr. Wick.
walk. Off the bat, this one makes a fun switch to the combat. John is now on the run and cut off from using any of the many amenities of the world of assassins, so he can no longer rely on his wealth and connections. We get to see a different style of John Wick, one that's more on the back leg. Some of this movie's best moments are when he has to improvise and use whatever's at hand. We also get to see John for the first time fighting with a partner in the character of Sophia, who has a couple of attack dogs which are thematically satisfying. By the way, Halle Berry is no fucking joke in this. She's not even in most of the movie, she's got one fight scene and she still did the whole training ritual and then some, because dogs are not great actors. They basically need a trainer with them at all times, giving them the step-by-step, and when you want to do a big mobile action scene, there's nowhere to really hide the trainer. So she had to become one of their dog trainers so they could film the scenes the way they wanted to. That is a commendable amount of effort for such a small role, good on her.
I should shoot you in the head right now.
I know.
This is where the movies begin to lean in more to the, bullshit side of things. John still has a bulletproof 7-piece suit, he rides a horse through the streets of New York just cause he could, and of course there's the famous motorcycle ninja fight, which I like the idea of, but I think the execution is a little bit wee lacking. Obviously it's just a bunch of green screen, but it feels like a bunch of green screen, you know what I mean? It lacks the weight that is normally the strength of these movies' fights. I was surprised to find out that this whole fight scene is basically a creatively curious recreation of a scene from a movie called The Villainess, where while the same scene doesn't look quite as cinematic, it looks a lot more real and has a much better weight to it. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be public knowledge how they filmed it. It's safe to say there are some sneaky cuts in there, but was there any green screen? I can't tell, which is a good thing. I think the one big difference that makes the Villainess's motorcycle fight seem weighty and grounded, while John Wick's looks fake and floaty, is the Villainess's healthy use of shaky cam. It's not too shaky, you can still tell what's happening, but everything feels very unstable. The camera is shaking back and forth, it's struggling to keep the action in center frame, and that's good because sword fighting on a bike is risky shit. So by making the camera work so unstable, not only do we not get a chance to spot whatever visual effects are at play, but we feel the weight of the characters. Now let's go back to John Wick. You see the problem now, right? It's good, it's just lacking that weight. Perhaps creative guilt prevented them from following the Villainess too closely, but hey man, you know what they say, go big or go home alone. It's me, I say that. This film likes to throw in, what do I call these, gross out moments? There are just these brief moments of light body horror. Most of you watching this are American, and I need to set this up for you. I know over there in the cinema, it's perfectly normal to whoop, scream, and cheer the second you feel a light tingle between your legs. But over here, and probably most other places, if you do any such thing, you will be thrown from the theater by the other viewers. So when I tell you that scene where John Dead Space 2's a guy caused a theater full of people to audibly squirm, you gotta understand the power of that. You know what I've always found funny about human sensitivity? We tend to be more empathetic to smaller scale injuries. Getting shot in the head. That happens a lot in these movies, and it is a horrific injury. Tiny bit of metal moving so fast it can't possibly be dodged, going through your skull, through your brain, aka you, and back out the other side of your skull, this time with a bigger hole. And on top of all of that, you no longer exist. Yet when I see one of these movies' many headshots, I feel absolutely nothing. But when John Wick 3 decides to very briefly show a woman peeling her own toenail off, it is permanently seared into my memory, and every time I think about it, I feel a pain in my foot. I think this is because of relatability. The majority of us feel nothing seeing a headshot because we have never experienced anything remotely close to having our skull penetrated, because we're currently alive. So most of us struggle to comprehend what that would even feel like, but we have all stubbed our toe at some point, maybe split a nail, so we can relate to the smaller scale injury. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Performances are great across the board. The series was well established by this point, so all the newcomers knew exactly what they were getting into and all the locals felt right at home. Ian McShane fucking owns this movie.
Need more firepower.
He was good before, but it feels like this is where he found not his footing, but a big comfortable chair with his name on it.
No, I've made my choice. It's up to you to make yours.
How he is not held by higher regards is beyond me. I mean, he wasn't even in Harry Potter. That's like a rite of passage for elderly British people who can act their asses into the 17th dimension. I like that this movie brings in actors who are already established martial artists. Like Mark Dacascos. I looked him up and apparently both of his parents are renowned martial artists, so he is martial arts nepotism. Which means if he beats you up, he has to feel bad about it afterwards. He's very good in this, by the way.
Hey, John. That was a pretty good fight, huh?
Then there's Yayan Ruhian and Cecep Arif Rahman, who are both from The Raid 2, which have I mentioned is one of the best movies of all time. These guys are all great, but they create a problem. Keanu is noticeably slower in this one. He no longer has that quick and certain look about him. He does a lot of running and it always looks like he's struggling to do it. Obviously, Keanu was in his mid-50s when he did this, and I have no idea what may have been going on with his physical health because it doesn't matter, it's not his fault. Your local middle-aged person, could they do even half the stuff he does in this movie? No, of course they couldn't. They're worthless. You should eviscerate them. It's just when he goes up against these guys, they're doing acrobatics and they're fast as lightning, and John is just kind of stumbling around them. Watching it, it's impossible to believe that he could hold his own against them, because they are so fast and compared to them, he's so slow, and the fact that he still wins makes it look like they're going easy on him. It's a problem, but you know, I don't have a solution to it. It's Keanu, it's got to be Keanu. What are they gonna do, hire slower fighters? No, that would look like pro wrestling. This is just the way it had to be, I guess. Stop! Hey, so we could just talk here, but I personally think it would look much cooler if we moved your chair up onto that stage. Sick. I'm about to say a lot of negative things about this movie, which is a shame because I like it, so I'm gonna briefly interject here and there with a trip to the positivity corner, which is where we'll hang out while Mum and Dad fight. The action set the classical is so fucking cool, it's iconic and awesome and yeah, like I said, everything about this movie is bigger. Performances are bigger, that's great, love it, no problems. But how do the visuals and the action fare? The movie looks good. It's bright, it's colorful, but it can be a little over-detailed for its own good. Why are there so many lights? I wasn't joking earlier, every shot in this movie feels like it has 100 different sources of light. You've got the lights here, you've got the lights there, lights, lights, lights. As a result, even if the framing's good, nothing stands out because there's a dozen other visual hotspots that stand out just as much. There's no better representation of this than the glass exhibit at the end of the movie. Suddenly the walls, ceiling and floor are not only transparent, but reflective. The movie combines that with approximately 1 million lights of differing colors, which are all reflecting off of multiple different surfaces, and the result is borderline ugly. Whew, okay. If they made a wax figure out of Keanu Reeves, it would be a candle. This movie is in desperate need of proper downtime. There's plenty of scenes where people just sit down and talk, but they all have an edge. Everyone John talks to dislikes him, which conflicts because he's asking them all for favors, so we can't relax because it always feels like they're gonna set the dogs on him. The Adjudicator is a very prominent character who does nothing but talk, but she's such a powerful and unsettling presence that you don't feel like you can put your guard down around her.
Your penance will be paid with 7 cuts.
Well, sometimes you gotta cut a motherfucker.
The rest of the movie is action, and as a result, it ends up feeling like one long, unwavering ride of tension. It's monotonous, which is really bad for this movie, because it's over 2 hours long, and the viewer can only feel the same thing for so long before they stop feeling anything at all. I love this shit, and even I found myself zoning out during fights. Which isn't good, because when I'm no longer immersed in the movie, I start nitpicking all the shit I wouldn't notice otherwise. The sets department made that handpad way too small. John shoots this one guy like 6 times, it's literal overkill. When John and this goon fall into the pool, it's frantic and messy, but when it cuts to the underwater shot, they clearly just gently drop in. Oh yeah, the underwater bit's really cool, by the way. The end of this movie is so fucking exhausting. First we have the big motorcycle fight. Then we have a big fight in the Continental, and it's a stressful fight. For the first time, John is fighting guys who are entirely bulletproof. On top of that, we have to worry about Chiron's safety as well. It's been a long, tense fight. We're ready for the final boss. Let's do this. So John goes upstairs to this big greenhouse. There's this wave of goons he has to fight. They don't make it easy. They're Houdiniing, that's a verb now. They're hitting him with these kicks that have this weird momentum. They're like, damn it, nitpicking, get out of my notes. This isn't cinema sins. It looks like he's not going to win, but eventually he pulls through. That was pretty intense. It lasted a few minutes, but we're at the finish line now, and it's time for the final boss. But no. Now John has to deal with the Raid Boys. They're pretty fun. They have this unique dynamic with John where they're seemingly unsatisfied with the amount of a challenge he's putting up, so they're just playing around with him. They're a tough fight, it takes a few minutes, and then he's fighting the final boss. It's a good fight, very intense, it takes a few minutes, but he comes out on top. Very fucking cool and just way too fucking much. I mean, holy shit, man. Like I said, no, wait, sorry. The movie shows us some more unique environments, lots of colors, very fun to see. Like I said, the movie's already relentlessly tense. We just had 2 bombastic, outlandish fights. We are actioned the fuck out. And then the movie throws in this glass house blouse segment, which would have been fine if it was just the boss fight, but it's not. It's a series of progressively tougher waves that lasts over 10 minutes. It ultimately could have been the climax all on its own. It's good, I have to stress this. Of its own merit, it's all great action. It's just slapping it on the back of a movie that already leaves no time to breathe, and you are now drowning the audience. I just wanted it to be over, which I don't like. This is my kind of movie, there's so much to love, but I can't watch it without being sick of it by the end. Now obviously to some degree this is a result of rewatching the movie. When you already know how things will end, you have a lot less patience for how you get there. But like I said, I watched this in the cinema, day 1. It was a big, memorable event for me, which is why I can tell you that on the first viewing, I was actioned out. I was still engaged because I didn't know what was gonna happen, but a 14-year-old boy was like, okay, that's just too much. John Wick 3 is a good movie, and I remember really enjoying it the first time I watched it, but it held up the worst on rewatch. I think that's the fault of the pacing, but also, I don't think the narrative benefits from being rewatched.
No.
For the first half, it feels a little aimless. Aside from basic survival, we don't really know what John's trying to do.
So tell me, Jordan, what do you really want?
He goes on a long journey, talking to people and icing so many fools he qualifies as a founder for Human Sorbet. Then he makes a deal, and we understand what he wants and what he's willing to do. He goes right back to where everything started and says, you know what, fuck that deal I made, I'm just gonna keep doing what I was already doing.
No.
So now most of the movie has been rendered irrelevant, and the entire movie feels like filler as a result.
Never seen a man fight so hard to end up back where he started.
I mean, what really happened here? Everything gets set back to the way it was, just now the High Table kinda think John's dead. That gets rectified in the first few minutes of the 4th movie. The High Table are now more mad at Winston than they were at the start. The result of that being they take the Continental away from him in the 4th movie, so he wants to get it back. But at the start of this movie, they were just forcing him to step down as manager of the hotel. Had he done that, he would still have the goal of regaining that control. So, bottom line, with a few minor adjustments, this movie could have been completely written out of the series and it still would have worked. That, or it could have been nicely condensed into a Star Wars-style text scroll at the beginning of the 4th movie.
John? Kane.
I'm sorry.
Me too.
The movie begins some while after the third film. John continues on his quest for freedom, while a tyrannical new foe known as the Marquis is tasked with cleaning up his mess, and also him. Just in case you still hadn't figured out what this series is about. Right off the bat, there's a feeling about this one. This is it, the grand conclusion. The stakes are high, the tension is high. The first song in the soundtrack is titled Big Wick Energy. This is where it goes down.
Last words, Winston?
You arrogant asshole.
The rule of thumb applies. Another John Wick sequel, another bump in budget, $100 million to be exact. 5 times the budget for the first film, which is just insane to think about. This isn't some blank check safe bet Disney sequel. This story began on a small movie nobody expected anything from, and in spite of its many shortcomings, its vision held true. It showed people the ballet in Brutal, and it resonated with them. And 9 years after the series began, now iconic and renowned, we have the final chapter in the John Wick story, practically limitless. It's a hell of a success story. The question is, does this movie end the series on a bang or on a whimper? Now that I think about it, technically this all started on a whimper. John Wick 4 completes the series' transition into a straight-up comic book movie. There's a blind assassin who uses motion-sensor doorbells as weapons. A tracker who's hunting John Wick so he can afford to build his dream house, and he has an attack dog that bites people in the crotch when he says nuts. An obese, gold-toothed, conniving German kingpin called Adolf, who can kick impossibly high for a man of his weight. A princely, stuck-up Frenchman who revels in his own superiority. Oh yeah, everyone's bulletproof now. They're all holding up their jackets like shields. By that point, why don't you just get a coat? Look at that, it's like 2 extra feet of shield. The series always had an unspoken acknowledgement that the world it takes place in is not quite our own, but this movie bathes in hyper-reality. Even the priest is strapped. I use this on the kids that tried to escape. It's a little bit divisive. On the one hand, it's a departure from the more grounded, realistic fighting that gained the movie's recognition, but more importantly, it's keeping things fresh. There's a bit where John shoots one guy 20 times, and it started being funny by the 6th.
Tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
The movie looks much better than the third. There's still a lot of lights, but for the most part they're well balanced with the rest of the image. More organized and logically placed. They no longer feel like they were used to fill in the set. Most importantly, sometimes they just aren't there. With each entry, the series has inched closer and closer to being outright good-looking, and 4 completes the jump. There are some really nice shots in this movie that are given just the right amount of detail and stillness to really pop. It's a good big-screen movie. When I went to see this movie in the cinema, at the end, while the credits were rolling, I saw these old people leave the theater. 2 ladies, 2 fellas, white hair, flat caps and cardigans. It was a senior citizen double date to watch John Wick 4. They have got to be the coolest old people I have ever seen. I chased them down afterwards, ran up to them huffing and puffing. You gotta teach me. They started walking away faster. It made me respect them even more. There are lots of great new actors, many of whom are known for their kick-assery. Hiroyuki Sanada. Is he seemingly Hollywood's only Japanese guy? Yes. Is there a good reason for that? Also yes. Scott Adkins is really hamming it up. Just seems like he's having a great time. You can't fault that. He also did a couple of interviews with Keanu Reeves specifically about his action movies.
I hadn't seen that before. You're the power powder. Oh, power powder. Yeah, power powder. Power powder. Hong Kong power powder. Makes everything look cooler. It just looks so good.
If you have some time to kill, I definitely recommend giving him a watch. He's got a lot of interesting stuff to say.
The boots that I wore weren't correct, so both of my big toenails came off.
Oh, so that's where where it came from. You son of a bitch. Do you have any idea the pain by association you've caused me? Shamir Anderson plays the tracker. He has by far the warmest performance in the series. Seems much more like a real guy than a caricature, but he does occasionally switch to something that feels more psychopathic. It's a really good, interesting performance that kind of goes against the tone of the series, but it works because his character is clearly a by his own rules outsider. Rina Sawayama is a singer giving her first acting performance, and she does a good job. She also sung the movie's theme song, which fucking slaps. Bill Skarsgård, who is just a phenomenal actor. While he's not known for action movies, and he does no action in this movie, he did actually go on to have his own Wick like a year later, and he did a pretty good job. I would not complain if I had to see him in more of this type of stuff. Clancy Brown. I like Clancy Brown because he has such a strong presence, and I like to believe that all of his characters do the Mr. Krabs voice in their spare time.
A man's ambition should never exceed his money.
And of course, Donnie Yen, who is honestly the star of this movie. He's not just an amazing fighter, but a very charismatic actor. For a character who's an antagonist, he manages to play him with such a sincerity that I always felt empathetic towards him.
It's so good to sit with a friend.
Fun fact, this is his first acting role. Before this movie, he was just a complete unknown blind guy with no martial arts experience. But director Chad Stahelski saw potential in him and decided that he would be the world's first blind action star. That's how we got the infamous release gap. First movie came out in 2014, second movie comes out 2 years later, 2017. Third movie comes out 2 years later, 2019. Fourth movie comes out 4 years later, 2023. Fans have long been baffled as to what could have possibly caused such a delay, but we now know it was Donnie Yen's training. It already takes months to train an actor who can see, so just imagine how long it would take for a blind man. It wasn't even as straightforward as that. The team didn't just have to teach a blind man martial arts, they had to teach him martial arts that wouldn't be inhibited by his lack of vision. And that's where they hit the wall. All martial arts are designed for people who can see, plain and simple. They could not teach him martial arts because all of them require eyes. It could have ended right there, but no. This is the best team on the planet, and they have a $100 million budget. These madmen, these legends, invented a fighting style for this movie. Because of Donnie Yen and this movie, the world now has No Sifu, a martial art designed specifically for blind people. Not only did it work magic in this movie, but it's now being taught worldwide. Blind people everywhere have been gifted a new strength, all because of John Wick 4, and I think that's wonderful. It's a very big movie, in fitting with the series trend for each sequel to literally be bigger than the last. It's got a longer runtime, it's got a much broader range of locations and styles and colors. There's another dance club shootout. It's the biggest one yet, but not quite enough to distract from the fact that this is the third time the series has done the same shtick. There are even grosser, gross-out moments.
You can pull the knife out, or you can pull your hand out.
There's a lot in this movie, and you might think that, like Free, it's too much. But not quite, because downtime is back, baby. Pacing is in play. The movie is allowed time to breathe. No joke, 10 minutes of this film are dedicated entirely to John taking a nap. Isn't that adorable? It's not a constant string of tension. You're really given the space to get to understand all of these characters, to be in this world.
What a beautiful sunrise.
I am so glad that these slower scenes are here, especially after the third film. The value of allowing things to unwind is magnified. It makes way for some great character moments, including what I feel to be one of the most beautiful lines I've heard.
You think your wife can hear you?
No,
And why bother?
maybe I'm wrong.
This movie's big cheese is the Marquis, played by Bill Skarsgård, and he...
You know why you won't take your freedom? Because this is who you are, who you've always been. You are a killer.
It's fucking incredible. To have a villain this joyously unlikable is a treat. It takes incredible talent to play a character this comically over the top, while still making him feel like a real human being. There's this great moment when he's talking down on Winston, then Chiron chimes in.
If I might, sir.
He seems surprised and offended, as if it was audacious of Chiron to even speak to him. He takes a second to turn his head like it's a burden, then he blinks like he has to recover from something.
By all means.
And with no words, he has expressed his elitism perfectly. Easily the best villain in the entire series, and that's not a low bar. The film once again raises the question of just how justified John is, considering the destruction he brings to all around him. It does finally have an impact on the plot, but it still feels poorly realized. There are multiple scenes where John's friends say, "Hey Johnny girl, you're kind of ruining our lives, could you please work out this midlife crisis?" Then, when we're meant to be seeing John contemplating the weight of his actions, we instead see him stony-faced. He looks more socially awkward than upset, and then he's oddly opposed to directly addressing what they're talking about.
I understand.
He instead gives these sort of non-responses.
Have you given any thought to where this ends? The table will never stop. You know this. It only takes life, and only gives death.
Less like a form of sincere affection and more a means of deflection. It's weird. This is supposed to be our hero in the moments that will define his arc, but instead of a tortured and conflicted soul, he just seems kind of stupid. None of this is intentional. John's not supposed to be emitting the energy of a scorned child who doesn't quite understand what he's done wrong. This is a very important part of his arc, it's just hindered by the fact that he doesn't look like he's actually feeling the weight of it. I don't want to blame this all on Keanu Reeves' performance. There's a lot of elements that go into this, his dialogue certainly doesn't help, but I think it's asking for a certain subtlety from him that I'm not sure is necessarily his strong suit. There are some pretty direct parallels to these scenes in the earlier movies, where you can see the exact same emotional wall in the face of verbal confrontation. I like Keanu. I think he's a better actor than people give him credit for, but I think this is a case where his trademark woodenness was a bit too wooden for what needed to be done. This movie's contribution to the combat formula is a wide variety of fighting styles. The Japanese Continental throws swords and arrows into the mix. Nunchucks. Axes. Razor gun. Walking stick. Playing card. Looney Tunes wind-up punch. Just a lot more melee in general. Scott Adkins' Adolf is a sort of pure strength brawler. Rina Sawayama's Akira has an oddly captivating fight style. She's scrappy, fighting high and low. She refuses to meet her opponent on the same level. Without a doubt, the highlight of this movie's fights is Donnie Yen's Kane. As in, like, the character that he plays. I realize that sounded like a weird sort of euphemism. It's not. He plays a character called Kane, who just so happens to be blind and use a cane. Was he called Kane before he was blind and had a cane? I don't know, but God do I wish I did. A blind assassin sounds like the setup for some cheap slapstick, but not here. No. One of the main fighters is blind, and everyone he goes up against is not blind. They play it dead serious, and it actually really works. Donnie Yen's performance masterfully walks the line between moving like a man who cannot see and kicking absolute ass. How the hell does he do that? A lazier movie would have just slapped some shades on him and called it a day, but just watch him in this film and you'll see he moves blind. It's an incredibly subtle yet instantly recognizable style of motion. As he moves, he feels the environment. He leads with his arms and his head follows after. He checks the chamber of his gun with a finger. They don't play it like his senses have heightened to a superhuman level. There are numerous times in this movie where he does just mess up like a blind person would.
You dead, John?
Yeah.
Right here, you can actually see him shoot at nothing, and yet seeing him do so doesn't feel goofy or comical because of the logic behind it. He fights like a man who knows his limitations and knows how to compensate for them. He's not being stupid here, he's firing a few extra shots into the enemy's vicinity just to make sure he's hit them. This is what sells the character. leaving his faults plain to see, grounds him and lends credibility to everything he gets right. Doorbells as weapons sound so stupid, but then you see him do it and it just works. It's such a ridiculous concept, handled with such class, that even though you know it's implausible, you will believe it completely. I'm sure the blind community was absolutely thrilled to see themselves so passionately represented. Calm down, they aren't watching this. Okay, so, remember how the third movie had a relentlessly bombastic ending? Yeah, well, it's the same case with 4. I don't want to repeat myself, most of the issues I brought up about the third are applicable here, but I've got things to say that are unique to this particular set. Most importantly, it's not nearly as bad as the third film. Because this movie has downtime, it's remarkably more tolerable. Near the end, this movie has a lot of unique fights. There's Carfu while French painted black blares. Try saying that 4 times fast. French painted black blares, French painted black blares, French painted black blares, French painted... You know what? I've actually nailed that. We get John Paris drifting around the Louvre. There's a Hotline Miami style fight where flames fly. And there's a race up Europe's longest set of stairs. These are each pretty standout fights that we haven't really seen anywhere else. You could see why any one of them might become iconic, and yet none of them really have. In fact, in spite of how unique and standout each of these fights are, I don't think of them as being such. They don't feel all that special. Now, I've thought of a couple of reasons for why that is that I wouldn't say are mutually exclusive. Firstly, all of these fights occur back to back. They lead from one to another without punctuation. That's a problem, because it means none of them are given enough room to shine for themselves. We all know this by now, it's a rule of life. If everyone's special, no one's special. If every car is fast, no cars are fast. If you could only eat your favorite meal for the rest of your life, you would get tired of it very quickly and probably also die from malnutrition. Because John Wick 4 blows all its showstoppers in the span of 20 minutes, they all end up blurring into each other. So instead of a clear, defining moment of awesomeness, we have an amalgamation of multiple points of awesomeness that's too jam-packed to highlight any one moment. Secondly, why? Why are these fights happening? The reason is that John has to make it to the meeting by sunrise. Point A to point B. That's not a terrible reason. It makes the stair fight at the end very strong because there's a clear correlation between the goal and the obstacle. We can see that the top of the stairs is the finish line, which makes it all the more devastating when, oh god. Okay, that's not good. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. Is he almost done? Okay. Okay, he's done. Okay. Oh no. And off he goes. Woof.
Just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
But that motive is less strong for the other fights. It's still applicable, but what does the Louvre have to do with John's mission? Why does he need to duck into this abandoned building? They aren't incorrect. John has to reach his destination in time and everyone's trying to stop him from getting there. There's no reason he wouldn't fight in these places, but there's no reason he wouldn't fight anywhere else either. Even though a fight around the Louvre makes for a grand spectacle, it's just that, a spectacle. There's no narrative significance to John fighting around the Louvre, it's just there because it's the Louvre. As a result, our attachment to the scene can only go as deep as, man, that looks pretty cool, he's fighting around the Louvre. Louvre.
This is a posture check. You don't live in the Notre Dame. You don't fry rice. Unless you do. Check your posture.
Paint it black. The Louvre. Hotline Miami. These fights, back to back, go on for over 15 minutes, but they have no emotional weight. Look, I realize some of you think I sound like an absolute fool stood here complaining that fight scenes don't have enough emotional meaning, but let's think back to some of the earlier John Wick fights. The Red Circle fight from the first movie. John is hunting the man who killed his dog. This guy runs scared through the club in a damn towel, placing every goon he can between him and the boogeyman. At the end of the fight, John has failed to catch him. The catacombs from the second movie. John has just assassinated an impossible target he did not want to kill. After evading their security, he walks into an ambush set up by the very man who hired him. There's still fights, but they're telling a story. If you were to walk out and go to the bathroom, you would be missing key information. John Wick 4 is rocking a solid 15 minutes of action that, were you to miss, you would still know everything you needed to. Now, I'm not saying that every few seconds of every scene has to have some great addition to the narrative. All of these scenes are great. If there was even just one less of them, or they were all a bit shorter, that would have been fine. But for 15 minutes of 3 different scenes to hang you on the edge of your seat but ultimately be discardable is a big shame. I find it funny that for the second movie in a row, I've lost my patience for a balls-to-the-wall ending because, relatively recently, I praised another action movie, The Raid 2, for doing just that. So I thought to myself, why did I like it when that movie had relentless action at the end, but when these two did it, I got bored? How could these movies have made it work? First of all, The Raid 2 has a lot of downtime. This movie has downtime? The Raid 2 is majority downtime. This film does not accommodate attention deficit Subway Surfer junkies, but apparently I do. Eyes up, kid, come on. It is hours of people talking and it is fucking awesome, and that lends a lot more weight to when the action does inevitably kick off. Second of all, while the fights do grow in terms of challenge, they lower in terms of complexity. Our hero fights a room full of guys, then a duo, and the grand boss fight is just one dude. That's great because the longer we are subjected to adrenaline-fueled action, we become exhausted and less susceptible. We have a lower capacity to keep track of multiple moving pieces. So the end fight is not one of spectacle, but of sheer tension. With no distractions, it's a pinpoint focus. We are given an easy job to simply watch each swing between these men because any one could decide whether our hero lives or dies. It's tense as all fuck, but it doesn't take work to keep track of, which is something I can't quite say for this final haul. This movie is too fucking long. It's full of great scenes, there's a lot of great ideas, but some of them had to go. I think there's something to be said about a series, the first entry of which was practically defined by its limitations, getting a black hole budget. Maybe it never quite learned when to leave an idea on the cutting room floor. I didn't want to have another long negative rant. Allow me to emphasize, it's just that last run that tests patience like a doctor. John Wick Chapter 4 is a good movie. It gives us the epic conclusion to the John Wick series, and it is pulled off perfectly. You can feel the talent and the passion in this. The movie is beautiful, the performers are giving their all. The stunts and the set pieces are a sight to behold. The series got a bit too ambitious for its own good, but I admire the shit out of that and you should too. 9 years after the first movie defied all expectations, reshaped all that would come after it, the series never lost sight of what made it special. John Wick brought honor to the action movie genre by showing action as the art that it is, but it also understood that there had to be more than action. These movies have had widespread success, and that's not just because of fancy fight scenes. The world building, the characters, the style, the humor, questions of rules and morality, this dark, twisted world of etiquette and blood money leaves behind an unmistakable identity. The narrative may not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think about John Wick, but you wouldn't be thinking about it otherwise. And with that, I'm done. I have reviewed every single John Wick movie. For now, that is. It has been confirmed John Wick Chapter 5 is in production. That rings some alarm bells. What with how well wrapped up John's story is and the cash cow this franchise has become, I really hope this is getting made for the right reasons. While I'm no prophet, not since I lost my license anyway, I think the only way they could continue it from here without shitting all over the ending from 4 is if they make a movie where John is dead and in hell, and he has to battle and bargain his way up to heaven so he can be with his wife, Helen. That movie I am game for, but otherwise, guys, I know you're watching this. Just quit while you're ahead. It makes less money, but it's so much more respectable. I mean, have you seen The Simpsons? Jesus Christ.
He's already dead.
As for the best John Wick movie, 2.
It's 2. Most people are going to disagree with me on that. It's a popular sentiment that each of these movies is better than the last, but I'd argue it's a case of them being bigger than the last. It's more exciting, but man, the fatigue in the last 2 bumps them down for me. They displayed a solid ability to innovate the formula, but they also displayed a very poor understanding of when to take their foot off the pedal. Obviously, you need to give the audience enough of what they've come for, but you need to leave them wanting more as well. And both of these movies overshot the mark to the point that the signature action became dull. 1 being a movie that doesn't have quite enough going on, and for me that leaves 2 as the best paced and overall fun.
We're going to Applebee's after this.
Anyway, it doesn't really matter. If you're only going to watch one of these, then you're doing it wrong. Thank you for making it this far. Seriously, I know you didn't do it as a charity, but it really does help me in pretty much every way it possibly could. Making this thing has destroyed my mind, body, and soul multiple times over, but it's done now. I'm proud, and all I can really hope is that you enjoyed it. I mean, you're still here, so... suck my dick, I don't know. I will review all of the spin-offs if this video gets a specific amount of likes that I will not disclose, but I will give you a hint. More than there are right now. Be sure to leave a comment with "first" in it to let me know you made it to the end. I have a video about the unusual John Wick video game, and I have a video about the Raid movies, which are some of the best action films of all time. Stay safe, I'll talk at you again. Happy birthday.
And the pen?